minute late. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're live, folks. It's so good to be here. So good to be streaming again. This is going to be a really fun Pep Tuesday because we are, for the most part, just going to be reacting to some various unfolds that have come my way. Some from our Discord, and actually a few from just around the internet that I have stumbled upon and could not help but chuckle a little bit at because, you know, a lot of people have a lot of different views on what a foam unfold is. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. So glad everybody could be here. I think this is going to be a really fun stream. I'm very excited. I'm very excited indeed. Now, so to start with, before we get into things, I actually wanted to take a look at this right here, which some of you will recognize as my Captain Rex helmet. Because this thing is very popular, I have discovered through finally looking at some metrics. And I actually just wanted to take a quick moment and highlight an issue, well, not an issue, but a specific region on the helmet that was giving somebody a little bit of trouble the other day. And that is this little bit in the rebreather right here. This thing recesses underneath this piece here, right there, and this piece right here. It goes the shorter, like, squatter side up, and it goes right down into that section. You can actually see it on the helmet right here. It's kind of like a little hexagon-ish shape. Short side up, long side down, and yeah. So this thing is, that's where that goes, and the only way I can clarify that is with video. So I was going to go ahead and just clarify that right there. For now, let's dive into some unfolds, and we'll do some reactions. We'll talk shop about this stuff. Hello, Orlando, Big Time Gaming Clan, Diaxis. Wow, everybody's poured in. Great to see everybody. We were just talking a little bit at the Captain Rex helmet, but now we're going to do some reactions. So I've got a bunch of stuff here. No, we're not going to save any chasers there. Let's start with this Samus? Seamus? I think it's Samus. How to pronounce Metroid. Let's see. Samus. Oh boy, we're just gonna do this.
How to pronounce
Samus. Okay, there we go. Oh boy. Every week, a new struggle with Jaden and his pronunciations. Alright, so let's take a look at this unfold. This is by ODCA, very active member over on the Discord. We do so appreciate it. This thing looks pretty good, to be honest. I'm quite happy with it. Obviously, especially for personal unfolds, I completely, totally respect, you know, only doing one side for your unfolds. And that's just a thing. You know, if you're doing something quick and dirty just for your own wherewithal, absolutely go right ahead and put those unfolds together as quickly as possible just for you. Yeah? Newbie at this Armory stuff, but I would like to make a full suit for my birthday. Do you know a really easy template for a Star Wars suit and helmet? Yeah, I have a full Stormtrooper armor. It's pretty good. If you're looking for something with full tutorials, I don't have full tutorials for my Stormtrooper, but I do have full templates for the Stormtrooper, which is pretty simple. I've seen a number of people put it together already. I know that Riser on YouTube also has some really good templates. They're not Pepicura, but they do have a lot of really strong tutorials to go along with them. He's got a lot more wood to his stuff. You know, there's a lot more, you know, hack it together to make sure works for you rather than, you know, my pep stuff where it's more like you scale it to yourself. I digress. I'm actually quite happy overall with the way this helmet's been unfolded. I think there's a little bit of inconsistency that we could address. For instance, the visor has spacers. I'm not sure. I think my little brother used Riser's templates to make his clone. But I don't have any personal experience with it directly, I'll say that. like I said, there's a little bit of inconsistency here that I would probably address from a templating perspective. Again, if this is for personal use, you know, anything goes. But there's spacers all around this here visor piece. And I do like that because, of course, when we're putting a visor into our helmet, we want to make sure that it's got extra room around the edges so we're not just trying to put it very much right up to the edge. But then there's other pieces very close to the visor that objectively could be constructed in a very similar way, but aren't, like this piece right here, which right here, but it's got all the parts sort of hanging out around it. And I would have probably put this all around here and done the same thing so that you can, you know, layer those bad boys together. And I think in that way you can kind of create a, shall we say, a shared language amongst all your parts, so you don't have to do this guesswork of, you know, does this piece fit here like this, or do I have to leave area around it? Or, hear me out, let's say, for instance, you didn't want to fully recess this piece for whatever reason. I would instead do something like, let's say something like this, where I'd actually just sort of set it near this piece as sort of a guide for where I would want that to be either layered or ground in, and in that way I would get rid of the need for flaps or anything like that, and I just wind up with a part that sort of looks like that. And that also would be very appropriate. Again, very nitpicky things I'm talking about here. These are really well done unfolds right here. I love that you have taken the time to redraw in some of those lines for addressing the actual fit. So we've got this along here. Now, I will say, it might not be useful to have this one here for any reason, because obviously they don't line up, even though they should. That's a problem with the way you've joined adjacent edges. You know, it's creating kind of a weird wooge right there. And this might be an order of operations thing. Maybe you did one part and then the other, and it didn't quite scoot together the way you wanted it. But I would probably have just erased these ones entirely because, you know, you don't need them. Obviously, that goes together there at the point because it's the point. Instead, you've got all of these, which definitely do need, and they're very clear and concise. Now, I do want to address something that's happening with the overall shape. And this is... I'm going to use some harsh language here for a second. This is, I would say, an improper application of the subdivision tool. What do I mean by that? It would appear that you've over-subdivided the center line, and now, if you can kind of see, it actually scoots it inside of itself. It actually dips in at the top and creates a little divot along the whole thing. And that's not normally such a big deal. Obviously, in terms of the overall shape, this is probably going to be just fine. But you can see right here what that actually does is it makes it so that this line actually scoots inward and it juts back in really sharply for no real reason. And it makes it so that when you're cutting these very smooth curves, there's suddenly like a really sharp bend at the end that's just kind of unnecessary to the overall build. I would have cut that straight manually after the fact if I had accidentally done that to the template. But that's just me. Yeah, well, I will say in terms of operations, it does look like you were smart in that you appear to have done some subdivision around this area of the crown here, and then you did another separate subdivision over the top, which is good because otherwise you create these points right here, but instead you've unfortunately created sort of a dip in, which I just know wasn't the intention there. Hey there, Koa! It's good to see you. We are critiquing and reacting to some unfolds from one of our Discord members. So this is a Samus helmet. Now I'm seeing what am I seeing here? There's like an artifact. Oh, weird. This like doesn't meet there. I wonder, is that the same on the other side? I wonder. I can't tell if that's an issue with the model or if ODCA has done something to this that has caused this, but this is separating there. It's created an edge there, but not there, and there's like these weird triangle separations. I wonder, can you see it on the piece? You kind of can. It's got this sort of weird jut to it there. I don't know what's causing that. I think I might not have separated this piece on the side exactly the way that they did. If I'm looking at it, it does look like between the subdivision you've done, you created a very distinctive edge along here that I would have divided it along. Now, let me take a look at this helmet overall. Samus Metroid helmet. Let's take a look at just the helmet, because I have a nagging suspicion those are supposed to be perfectly round, and that's why you divided it the way it is. Let's see. Yeah, it does look like... It does look like this is supposed to be perfectly round over the top here. Yeah, so I could see why you'd want to do that. But then again, in the more pixelated versions, it's definitely sort of square. You know what? No, I'm going to stick by my original statement. I probably would have split it along this line here. And then when I glued it together, I would have glued it together flush, not at an angle, so that it still bows over. But it would have created a bowed shape in a slightly squarer direction. So it would have been very smooth, but still would have had some of that shaping, some of that game shaping. And that's something you have to think about when you're unfolding. That's something you have to think about in a way that I just get really caught up with sometimes, which is you have to kind of respect the medium you're coming from, because otherwise you're going to wind up with shapes that maybe make sense for a really gritty version of what you're doing, but you wanted to create a replica. And so, you know, it's just the kind of thing you have to take into account. Some things require really fine detail lines, some things require big blocky detail lines, and there's that's up to you as the prop maker to decide. Like, I've been working, you guys have been watching me work on this Fordo helmet, and I'm generally quite happy with the way these templates have turned out, because I think it has that soft, cartoony look to it overall. The squares are all really big. A lot of the details are just sort of drawn on or etched on rather than recessed, and that makes it look really clunky and like a cartoon. And that's just the kind of thing you have to think about when we're talking about a thing from a property like this. Overall, I think this is pretty good. I think you may have overdivided this piece here. I'm sure that there's probably a way to smooth that out into maybe just two pieces to create a very, very smooth shape. This is all quite good. Totally makes sense to me. I might have actually taken this piece and turned those side pieces into like an undercut from it, because I don't think there's supposed to be any separation there. I think this is supposed to be essentially on this side like this. These are like that, and those are like, oh wow, what has happened here? Oh yeah, these are like that, those are like this, and he are like that. And in that way, I would sort of just turn this into one piece with an undercut there. And that's actually a lot closer to, I think, what I would have gone with right there. But overall, pretty impressed by this unfold. There's definitely places you could go further, but that's because I'm an absolute maniac. Good job, ODCA. I really like this unfold. I like this model. I like that you really went for it on trying to reshape some of those elements you really wanted to clean up. So kudos. Round of applause for ODCA. Round of applause in the comments. Oh man. Okay, let's go ahead. I say we should open up the next thing. Let's see. Oh, here's another one from my Discord here. Now, we're not going to save any of these changes. If you want to see ODCA's unfold for yourself, you can check it out on our Discord at the link down below in the doobly-doo. It's a really fun place. People share and stuff all the time. I do share some extra unfolds over there when I get requests. And it's fun. It's fun to, you know, hang out with other prop makers and talk shop about stuff. Let's see. So I've got this Titanfall pilot helmet. And this one I was extra intrigued by because I'm working on a different Titanfall helmet unfold right now. And this one in particular really just piqued my interest for being, I think, a slightly simpler helmet than the one that I'm currently working on. Orlando Shaver, that's you. So I think that you have done a lot of things to make this very easy to print out. But I will say, I think that you could probably go a lot further with this. And I want to point out a couple specific areas. Number one, I'm going to show off this piece sort of going around the edge. Let's actually just grab all these parts. We hold control and just left click all the parts we want to grab together. And let's scoot them off together. Now you will see a lot of foam unfolds definitely remove one half of the pattern for symmetry, and you can... What? Can we get her out of here? Can we get that out of here? We're gonna remove that. Absolutely ridiculous. Here we go. We are looking at this right here. What was I saying? Oh, sometimes I'll remove like half a pattern in order to maintain symmetry, and you can just flip things over. But instead, I think this is especially a piece where we'd want to keep almost all of this together. You know, these are very, very limited disjoins and rejoins here. Instead, what I much prefer doing is trying to keep this as close together as possible. Yeah, just like that. And now what we see is when we put this together, it can all sort of just become one piece. And we don't need to create all those extra cuts. It's not something we need to spend a lot of extra time with. And, you know, one of the things, part of the reason we do this isn't just because, you know, we're super busy and we have no time. It's also because one of the things that's great about foam is it's also a super quick medium. You know, we can get a lot of this detail out of there really, really fast. To wit, I probably wouldn't even, I would unfold this, but I probably wouldn't, let's see, where is it? Yeah, there we go. I probably wouldn't even take these rectangles on the sides and include them as pattern pieces. I would instead just use this as the sort of blank space where that rectangle goes, and that's sort of the template. See, when I go to join adjacent edges in the 2D menu, now I've got that perfect rectangle here. I don't need another rectangle to tell me a rectangle goes there because I've already got the space for the rectangle. So let's see here. What else? This is sort of indicative of what I'd say my general critique of this piece overall would be. You've done a really good job, I will say, of something that I think a lot of people who are new to foam unfolding lose track of right at the end, because they get really close to the end and they just want to be done, and you're like, blah, blah, blah. Which is, you've done a lot of page optimization, which is so important. Because if you don't optimize your pages, you're going to wind up with pieces like JF Customs builds, where it's super easy to see how it's supposed to go together, just when you lay it all out as one piece. But you wind up printing, like, I think some of his are like 30 pages or something like that, when it's just not necessary. That's so over the top and unnecessary. But you've done a really good job of optimizing these pages, Orlando, and I think you deserve all the props in the world for that. Now to continue to critique it. Let's see. You've done a really good job of, like, here you did something that I think you should have done on this piece, which is, you know, you put it together and you were like, that's basically flat, I'll just keep it together. Absolutely stellar. Now, I will say, if you wanted to do something that ODCA did, which is, obviously this goes under this, and so you could either put those together with the intention of layering it later, or you could take some of this edge piece, and you can go around this and add it as, you know, that sort of flap we talk about, where now this can just layer onto that extra material. You don't need to worry about not having enough material or putting your parts too close together, and that's just a thing you get to do, you know? These are options. There are options available to you, but I think you've taken a really strong path for a lot of this. Same dealio with this, though. I think you're gonna find that these pieces, there's really no reason. Oh, who modeled this? Hey, so here's the thing. I am very much of the opinion that when you share a model, if it was modeled by somebody else, you should try and put that in the name of the file itself. One thing that's really bothered me lately is I've seen a bunch of people crop up making my Bad Batch templates. I love people are making my Bad Batch templates. But they'll re-upload them places, and it'll just say things like Wrecker Helmet template or Wrecker Foam. And I think that that's maybe a weird thing to do, especially since it definitely comes with my name on it. So if you remove my name, or indeed if you don't include somebody's name when you knew it, it's perhaps not the greatest thing. The good news is this modeler has taken the time to throw their name, Jico? No, probably Jico, like Rico, aka Head Stub. That's hilarious. And they put their name in the texture, so it'll be very hard to get rid of them, frankly. But you know, that's just something to be considering. You know, we are a community of people who do a lot of work largely for free, and the very least you can do for yourself and everybody else is, you know, just to let them have credit where credit is due. I will get off my soapbox now. Didn't have the text, so I'll actually add it on top of the pages. We didn't have the text. Do you mean like the text of, oh, who made it? No, don't make. Just put it in the file name. You don't need to go through and like add text boxes everywhere. I think that might be a waste of your time, to be perfectly frank. That might be overkill. What am I looking at here? So this would definitely be a case of over separating parts, because I'm guessing, yeah, that's also a piece, which I would say is unnecessary. We can combine all of this. We can make it simpler. You've really ramped down the sight line of these fold lines, though, so it does get a little harder to see where the polygons are. You can actually fix that by just going in here and under the line color tool and just showing all those lines again. I know that you ramped those down so that you didn't have to look at them all, and that's a totally valid way of doing what I do normally is I erase the lines, but you can also just ramp them down so that below a certain threshold you don't see them. And that's also totally appropriate. Let's see here. Yeah, that looks good. Look at that. And now, you know, there is a little bit of overlap in there, but I will say I think that this would probably smooth over pretty well. Yeah, see, because you can turn that all into one pieces part now, and I would definitely go that route. So there's definitely places you could simplify a lot more for foam, but overall, a great first start, I'd say. You've definitely separated along some of the places that you should. I think you could go further here with actually combining basically all of like half the head, and then you could get rid of all these extra little deedly bobs and combine them into sort of one half of the head like this. And that'll just make your build go a lot faster, because you're gonna wind up doing less gluing, less cutting, less everything, frankly. Hey, thanks, Melina. We are not so much unfolding as we are doing some soft critiques of some unfolds that were, you know, shared in our Discord. We're talking about it, and we're trying to work through what makes some of them really work and what not so much. Now, this still has a thing you're going to have to glue together there, but I'd say that's a lot simpler than what we started with, which I think was like 5 pieces. I don't feel the need to go much further on this, because I feel like I've kind of talked through the elements of this that I think can be, you know, pushed out and taken further. But I think that this was a really great, you know, I know you're a newbie, Orlando, but I think that you're really going to have a great time with this build, and I'm really excited to see whether you decide to revisit these templates or move forward with what you had, because at the end of the day, templating for yourself is about making sure that you understand how your template goes together. So if it's going to work for you, make it work for you. I'll get off the soapbox again. Let's take a look at some other templates. Some templates I found from kind of around the internet, a little bit from Pepicure Library. I'm not so much active over there anymore, so much as I just sort of stay relevant. Good evening, Melvin. Good evening, all. Glad everybody's here. We are critiquing some foam unfolds from across the web, and we're having a good time doing it. It's bringing up some interesting questions, some interesting topics that I don't normally get to because I just sort of skip past them as maybe less than best practices. So let's keep going. Let's see. Here's a Mandalorian helmet. Okay, so it looks like this is just a Mandalorian helmet that I found online at one point. I don't think I think that's why I didn't do anything with it. This is like the Fortnite one, so it's very rounded overall. This is not a bad unfold, I'd say. I think that there's some weird interpretation, and I think it's over separated. Now, you folks will know from watching my Mando build that I only had one seam across the back of the head, and then of course it was a separate piece down the middle. And so basically there was only the one seam running along here that you had to fill, and everything else was basically on an edge. So there's a lot of seams on this one. And I think this is actually kind of what we want to get at the heart of here. So let's grab all those pieces from the one side. Because this person, again, fairly rightly so, did not really bother to unfold the other side. Although I will say, the fact that this piece exists tells me that they should have known better, I think. And here's why. It looks like the computer tried to unfold the part for them, and it tried to keep as much of this together as possible. And looking at that, I think this person should have maybe realized that you could probably have gotten almost all of this in one piece, even if you had to split it just somewhere down the middle. Because, you know, obviously it gets so close just as the computer there. Whereas what they end up with are these 4 pieces with, I'll call them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seam lines. No, that can't be right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, oh no, 5. 5 seam lines. And it's just a weird way to split it up. Especially since you've got seams abutting seams here. Like this actually works its way down into like there. Whereas this just goes all the way across. This just ends abruptly in the middle. And it's like a sliver. I don't, you know, here's the thing. People do this out of the goodness of their hearts. They do it for free. They do it because they're passionate about it and it's fun. I think that this could have gone a lot further. So, I mean, if I'm being artistically critical, I think that this could have been a lot easier. I mean, even just doing that, you can see there's basically no edge there. There's no reason not to split it that way. It feels like somebody told this person that you have to split the helmet this way. And then about halfway through it, they realized that the actual lines of this model, the faces of this model, don't quite work out that way. And so they just kind of, they panic around here. And then they separate the bottom because they're like, it's the back of the helmet, it's not the top of the helmet, even though it's all a very smooth shape. Again, when you're making a template for something, you have to look at not just the object and like what you would consider to be a normal way to unfold things, but also like the source material and how it's supposed to look in the end from the source material. So this is all supposed to be smooth, so it's in your best interest to reduce the part count there as much as possible. And this I think is just a really wonky application of that. Now, they do seem to have a really good handle on the faces of the front, I think. I probably wouldn't, if possible, I might try to do that in one piece. I don't know. I think that just depends on how you want to build it. This, I think for mine, I actually don't make this a separate piece because I don't like doing angled joins. I'd rather do an undercut. I think I'd do something along those lines and then join them together. And of course, a lot of this seems to just generally flow then. This is the piece over the top. We got the piece on the... Oh, hold on here. Oh, that's wonky. So this person appears to have pushed together all of these edge parts, but I don't know why, because you'd have to bevel them inward and then glue edge to edge along these. Whereas if you added all of these parts here to these parts, then they could at least, this could be layered onto this. So maybe a little more critical of that there. I'm not sure what this is. What is this? Oh, it's just the top edge. I'd probably scoot that over here. You know, put it down here. Try to wedge that together. Make it clean. Make it pretty. Little over the top there. Oh, thank you so much, Orlando. Yeah, no, I don't have the full Stormtrooper. I don't know. You're my Star Wars templates. Are you talking about the Stormtrooper? I have a lot of Star Wars templates now. I try to make them roughly like head shaped or head sized when I have a helmet, of course. But you know, everybody's head's a little different. Like for instance, I'll digress for a moment. I'm working on editing together our Batman cowl video, and this cowl I think turned out really nice. But the helmet is made to be a little big so that I can just zoop my head in like that. And it does fit, but obviously this is a very specific size for me. You'd have to size it for yourself a little bit. And if you are looking for specific help sizing foam, I would suggest checking out on our channel. We did a live stream on sizing foam Pepakura. It was Dr. Fate. It was scaling and printing a Dr. Fate helmet. So if you're at all curious about scale and scaling, I definitely send you over there. The Clone Trooper Phase 2 helmet should be relatively person-sized. I'm so sorry. Yeah, you'd have to open up Pepakura to check it. That sounds about right, especially given that it closes so far down at the neck. Let's see here. Let's move forward from this. This helmet was... I would give this a rating on like a 1 to 10 scale of like... I want to say like 5, because this is not bad. Like there's a lot of simplification going on. I think there's just way more parts here than you really need, and they're maybe broken up in some weird ways. Okay, let's see here. Good job. Thank you, Juan. Oh, 1,000 congratulations. All right, cool. Let's see here. Let's see. I have this guy, which I think highlights a very specific issue. This is supposed to be a Clone Trooper shoulder piece. And this is a nice model. I like it because it's not perfectly symmetrical, because the Clone Trooper shoulder isn't. It's got sort of a facing to it, you know. It is supposed to lead on this edge and trail on this edge. And that's always nice, because I think sometimes, especially with foam, it can be really easy to make pattern pieces that are symmetrical, so it's just really easy to trace things down, but, you know, accuracy is what it is. Now, I'm going to do something here that might highlight the issue a bit better. I'm going to not hide these edges that are nearly flat, because it does look like somebody's gone through and hidden a bunch of lines, but they didn't join any lines. So check this out. If I go through and I click hidden line, I'm going to paint them all black again, because they end right here, but the actual join goes all the way down to here. The Clone Trooper, I don't know. There's no name attached to this, and I'm being overly critical of work that is objectively free. So please take this all with a grain of salt. But here's the thing. This is so many pieces, or so many joins that you would have to do. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 joins you'd have to do across a shoulder. Which, here's the thing. If you're going to do this out of paper, that makes a ton of sense, because you need the paper to take over, because you need to do all those tiny, intricate folds, because paper can't fold in two directions well. But foam really can. A shoulder piece like this, I tend to do in two pieces. Got the front side and the back side. Now, some people will split it along the middle this way, and that's also appropriate, I would say. But I definitely tend to do it essentially this way. I think, go through and unfold this real quick. Oh my goodness! That's super exciting, Orlando. Go do. Yeah, no, I've been spray painting things on and off all day, just trying to clean things up, get things ready. Again, the Fordo helmet really coming along here. I think that we've really accurately rendered a cartoon style. I'm really excited about this helmet in particular. But so now once I've sort of got the center line of this here, what I'll do is I'll go in and just sort of even out along this entire thing. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna do a speed run thing here, which is I'm going to reduce this all the way down to almost nothing, and then I'm gonna do this all in the 3D menu, like an absolute boss. Let's see, bam, 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 bam. The thing about doing it in the 3D menu is that it's single-click join disjoins rather than double-click. Which, if you're confident that you know what you're doing and you can see which part you're breaking apart and make sure that it's in the correct way, this is definitely the faster way to do it. Here we go. Joobada-ba, jabba-da-boo, doobada-jabba-da-doobada-doo. Here we go. Yeah, so now we got one half of it here, and then we'll do the same thing on this side. It'll be super fast. We're gods of Pepakura. I don't know, I've been using a phrase a lot lately because people have been asking me how to do certain things, and I just kind of have to answer, you just kind of do it and pray to the cause gods. I think the cause gods are very real forces in our profession, which is that sometimes you just go to do a thing and it's either going to work or it's just not, and all you can do is pray to the cause gods. I don't know, I feel like resin casting especially is that way because, you know, you can do everything right and still, you know, something's just a little wrong and it's nothing you did. It's possible to do all the right things and still kind of fail. Just gotta ask the cause gods for mercy. Here we go. I wanna be in the cavalry if they send me off to war. I want a good steed under me like my forefathers before. I want a good mount when the bugle sounds and I hear the cannons roar. I want to be in the cavalry if they send me off to war. I want a horse and a volunteer force that's riding forth at dawn. Please save for me some gallantry that'll echo when I'm gone. Let me beg of you, Sergeant, lead the charge when the battle lines are drawn. Let me at least leave a good hoofbeat that will remember loud and long. Here we go. So now I'll just paint back in it. Come on. What? Oh. I don't need to paint any. I need to erase all. Here we go. Let's erase pretty much everything except that line there. We'll just erase that and we'll do what I was going to do. We'll paint those back in. We'll paint in like there. Look at that. And that's a full pattern, you know, like you don't need to worry about that too much. And it's just two pieces. It's one glued seam. And I think it's just important to note that when you're going through and doing stuff like this, if there's a way to simplify it, especially big, smooth, organic shapes, go out of your way to do it, frankly. Because you'll save yourself a lot of time and heartache after the fact. And here's the thing. I think all builders are guilty of this a little bit, like at all levels. I think my favorite example of this, and I'm picking on people a little bit here. I'm very aware of that. But like Kamui Cosplay has some truly spectacular cosplay builds. She and her SO are phenomenal cosplayers and builders, and I love their work. But I remember watching her. She has a TIE pilot helmet that she did for the release of Battlefront, and it's really well done. But I remember looking at the number of pieces that they used to make the curves and the rebreather and the tubes, and I remember just like wincing at the amount of work it must have taken, because I think it's like 8 pieces around this edge here, and then you have to go through and you have to sand that all down and smooth it out with filler, and it just takes so long, and they do a good job of it. Like, that's the thing, is the back end of this is the final product is amazing, but I think they took a lot of extra work to get there, and this just kind of goes to that. Yeah, we'll put that. Oh, I see. Let's open another. Do I have any more? Or is that kind of like the end of what I got? I think that might be kind of the end of what I got. Unless, did I forget to put something? Hang on. Did I forget to put something? I did. I forgot to put something in the folder. Ha ha. Here we go. So I found this one floating around. And it's a slightly older model. Now, I can't for the life of me, because I don't know if it's just an issue with the... Oh, there. You cut your hair. It looks great. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's summer here in Minnesota, and I don't know if you guys know this, but summers in Minnesota are sweltering. They are just the worst. It's it's freezing cold like 9 to 10 months out of the year, but for like 2 to 3 months, it is sweltering. I think it got to be like 103 the other day. So I definitely need to cut my hair. And that is that, frankly. So let's talk about this unfold, because I do think I've unfolded this exact helmet before, a couple of different ways. But this, I think, is a little more work than it's necessary. Now, I cannot for the life of me tell which one of these guys did the unfold and which one of these guys did the model, because this is super mess. So we'll just scoot that out of the way for now, because we're just going to talk about this a little bit. Now, most Iron Man helmet... I actually got an Iron Man helmet here. We'll talk about this. Most Iron Man helmets kind of follow a similar pattern of sort of rounded faceplate, rounded over the top, turns into a back piece, flat sides. You know, very, very flat sides. You know, there might be some roundness, especially in the later marks. There's a lot more roundedness to this overall, but it is still sort of that side over the top. I'm not monetized yet. I think we're at like 2,400 viewing hours in the last 12-month period. If it happens, it happens. In the meantime, I'm working on stuff. I've got some commissions. I've actually probably got space for another commission. If anybody's looking for something, feel free to reach out to the channel. We're working on it. But in the meantime, let's talk about this helmet in particular, because I think there's some parts that they've overdone and some parts that they've underdone. Let's take a look, see for a minute at the faceplate. Now, I don't think these are actually joined together. I might be mistaken. Hang on. No, and there's nothing hidden there, so it must be... they've drawn out some lines, so they've done a really good job there, I'll say that. Let's get rid of the texture, just because I'm having a little trouble seeing it. Oh, that's so weird. Oh, they haven't joined edges. They've just hidden them. I guess that's a way to do it. Oh, I don't like that. I'm being snobby, but I don't like that. So here's something that I think some people don't know about. So this right here is a pretty good application of this. They've removed sort of an edge piece here, right? Foil and duct tape to make a template. Yeah, no, you can absolutely use foil and duct tape to make patterns. Actually, the past 2 Thursday live streams, we've been making this Captain Fordo helmet using that method. We used a big head form, a bunch of tinfoil, and we sort of sculpted out the shape of the helmet. And you can actually check that out on the channel. There's like 2 hours of content of us making those templates exactly that way. Koa. It's a super fun method. This just happens to be a way that I tend to do a lot of pattern making. So we've got this here, and they've gone through and they've removed the edge here that sort of is the just flat between the top section and the section where it's, inset there. Yeah, absolutely, Koa. Like that's exactly what I've been doing recently for that helmet. Let's see, this here. Unfortunately, due to the way that they've unfolded this now, you can see this doesn't connect to there the way it should. But I think that there is perhaps a better way to do this. Now, this is pretty close. I actually don't mind this. You know, because now you can see this actually all sort of kind of lines up. And look at that. Bam. Bam, blam. Whoa, blackberry, bam, blam. Look at that. And now when I put this there and that for this and those for that, if I were to join these adjacent edges now, it's a pretty decent inset and it's all one piece, and I don't feel bad about that, you know? So, I mean, just in that way, this could have been a little easier. But then, let's consider that, you know, for a foam build, you don't really need to separate the faceplate from the rest of this. That's more of an arbitrary thing in either paint, or you can add a detail line there. That's what I did for this one. The faceplate's all part of the same piece, and it's just scored in along the places where it meets this red, and then you paint it differently, but it creates a really subtle detail there. Actually, I've done that for a ton of these things. There's a bunch of it on the Star-Lord mask. You know, there's a ton of it in the faceplate here, and even just in these sections down here. So, I mean, you know, anywhere you can let the technique carry through for you, that's always going to be a great time. Now, but look, we can actually sort of wudge this together, and I would almost... I think when I did my template, just because this is so flat on top, I think I actually took all of this and joined it together along like a center-ish line right there, and then lined it up across here, and then it's just a seam from here to here at the point that you fold together, and that becomes a much simpler pattern overall. I'm obviously paraphrasing in the way I'm setting this together here, but it's very possible, and it's a lot easier to build when you're done. And the same can be said of like all these parts for the final piece here, because like let's consider the brow piece here with the edge here. Now this doesn't want to connect there, and that's fair, but I would probably just separate out the brow piece and either add the brow piece. You could add the brow piece to this along this edge, or you can just sort of wind up with a piece like this, where I'm sort of paraphrasing in my work here, and then you can take, say, these parts here and line them up, and you know, once you're done, you're gonna wind up with something that's pretty flat overall, and it kind of just is the wraparound piece from side to side. You know what? Give me 2 seconds, because I think I've unfolded this before, and the fact that I believe that I have is actually bothering me. I think I can show you a finished version of this helmet, and that's why it bothered me so much when I initially saw it and was like, that's unfortunate. Let's see, Iron Man Mark III, Mark III chest. Let's check the uploaded. 46, 3, Mark 85. I could have sworn Mark 48, Mark 50. Oh, so I think this might be mismarked as 48. Yeah, because I have this marked as a 50. At any rate, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. This is exactly how I did it in the past. No paraphrasing. Can show exactly. So now you can see it's sort of grouped together so that you've got... Here, you got all of this as one piece, basically, right? And that is because the rest of this is mostly either recessed, but it is basically flat with like a little bit of undercutting there. And that's all you really need to do. You can build it up or undercut it, and in that way you've got one solid piece here. And then over the top, same dealio, one solid piece with a single break. I guess that makes it not a solid piece. But you can see that it does just have the one break there, and that's super easy then. And then you got a couple pieces across the back, but then, you know, it's just kind of some cleanup, basically, if you will. you know, you're basically just grabbing the rest of the few pieces in here. You know, the piece under the jaw, the brow has been addended to this, so you don't need to worry about that. But you've got, say, the eye and the inner eye detail. Just kind of tidy up around there. But like this one as it was, I think was just so over the top. Like this can all be one piece. I think, again, on the other one I had it, there was no break in that piece, and you don't need it, frankly. Foam will get you that subtle curving. With that, we're actually pretty close to the end of the night here. So I just kind of want to show off something that did drop on my Patreon the other day, which is a full foam conversion of this 3D model that was sent my way of a Gendy Tartakovsky trooper. Now, this is not the templates that we use to make our trooper. To be perfectly honest, I kind of like the shape of ours better, for all sorts of reasons. Like, I think it's a lot more aggressive in its points and whatnot than the way that the cartoon was. Not to mention, I like the flatness on the front a lot more, whereas this one sort of juts out at the jaw in kind of a weird way. But these did drop over on our Patreon, and they will be dropping along with we're probably going to release these as like a digital PDF for like $3 or something. So there'll be a free version. There'll be some ways for you guys to do it yourself if you feel like it. Otherwise, you can benefit from our work as always. Yeah, we got new videos coming. We got new streams. We got new stuff planned. Oops All Troopers 4 is on route for next week, so stay tuned for that, frankly. For now, I think we're just kind of wrapping up. Weird question. I mean, does anybody have any questions about some of the stuff we looked at tonight? I think this has been a really fun and frankly informative stream. Not all of them are quite so information heavy, but dang, I think we got some really cool stuff in here. I don't know. Let's see. Let's just take a moment. We'll jump to our downloads, see if anything has popped up here that might be worth chatting about. Oh, that's right. I had this. So this is a personal Red Hood project that I was working on that I sort of remapped something, but you can see it's absolute garbage on the inside that I did sort of just turn into something that I could use for a friend of mine. A friend of mine to help make a Red Hood mask that he could use. Actually, one of my groomsmen popped in to help me make this, and I think it's turning out really good. So I don't know. Depending on how in love with this I am when we're done with it, we might end up releasing this as a new pattern as well. Just because this thing is pretty fun, and the visibility really is quite impressive. It's not quite sized for me, so my eyes are a little bit higher. But what you gonna do? What you gonna do? At any rate, we're just a few minutes out here. I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm forgetting. As always, if you like the things that you see, if you like my builds, feel free to check me out on Etsy or hit me up about commissions. Like I said, I am open for commissions. I'm looking to try and fill a couple more slots this summer, I think. I just sold one of my Hylian shields. I've got another if anybody's looking for it. And yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's just pop into the folders, see what's going on here, see what's chilling out. Yeah, absolutely, Melina. I think you've definitely, that's the big takeaway is, I think, definitely fewer seams on foam is almost always going to be better. Let's see. Oh, these are actually also released on our Patreon a bit back. We modified and unfolded a Mad Max Immortan Joe mask. This thing's gnarly looking here, especially once you shade it to see all the ins and outs of that. That is just gnarly with all those teeth. Ugh. Ugh, look at those teeth. Oh man. Man, there's a lot in here. Sorry, my download folder gets pretty messy sometimes. Wind up with stuff that's just all over the place. Like here's a Ragnarok Loki. That's something I have, I guess. Lord. That's a pretty decent file. It does do that thing. Here's something that I don't like to do a ton in my files, but I do wind up doing sometimes. I definitely I definitely wind up butting things here. Actually, in something that I'm working on right now, which I was gonna work on if there was a lot more time. I'm actually working on this Death Trooper template that I think is gonna be pretty nice when we're done. It's a pretty clean mesh I've managed to work up. But there is actually, it's sort of two parts. There's this guy up here, and he is just sort of abutted to the inside because I didn't want to bother with it. I could not be bothered with the Boolean. Sorry, everybody. It'll still make clean templates, I swear. But I do think that you're gonna really appreciate the way this sort of ends up. But yeah, Troopers. Oops, All Troopers 4 it's definitely happening. It's definitely happening next week. So if you like our Trooper buckets, if you like our templates, please, consider subscribing, consider hopping on, and as always, this has been really fun. I want to thank everybody who's come out for this, because you didn't have to, and the fact that you did is very nice. I'll thank my patrons as well. They help make these builds and these channels, these templates possible. Sam, Suit Up Props, Benjamin, Laura, Ruben, Matt G, Pendulce, K-Snake, and of course Austin of AJ Plays Piano. You guys rock. You really help make things go. If you're looking for me anywhere, you can find me down below at all my social media in the doobly-doo. For now, thank you all for being here, and as always, take care.